Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have So Cold.
Why don't you turn the heater on?
I know. I should.
So what's it called?
So Cold.
Oh, okay.
Which is a Ichor Falls submitted story on the Ichor Falls website, like the submitted section. It's currently by anonymous because they didn't give us an author name. So, and the reason we're doing an Ichor Falls story ahead of September is because I found out something. It may have been brought up on the show before, but there are actual coordinates to Ichor Falls when you Google map Ichor Falls.
Yeah.
So, and it just so happens I'll be traveling by there on my way to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So, for damn sure I am going to go to those coordinates and possibly get lost in a town that does not exist in the factual world. So, this may or may not be one of my last recordings. Fortunately, we have another recording after this one that'll be getting posted after this episode. But after that, I may not be here.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah, so I think halfway through August, you're gonna have the cultist may not show up for an episode or ever again. I'm excited.
You're excited to die.
Hey, like I've said before on this show, if I gotta die, it's gotta be a creepypasta way.
I mean, that's fair, yeah.
I die as I live, immersed in creepypasta.
That tracks, yeah. That's on brand for you, for sure.
Yes. But getting down to this one, also, this is kind of a bit of I guess this could also be a bit of a tease for the September episodes of Ichor Fall, because we still have a couple of the submitted entries from the website for that. Okay. So, but yeah, this is So Cold, and I will. Well, before I dive into a rundown, let's give our recommendations for this, so people know ahead of time where they want to go for this. So, starting off with me, I will recommend.
I also recommend.
I also recommend.
Wow, clean sweep across the board.
Whether or not our notes somehow drastically change that, and by the end of that, I'm like, you know what? I hate this.
Yeah, fair. Well, that sometimes happens when we're having conversations. Like, you know what? I just realized I don't like this as much as I thought I did initially. That can happen. But anyway, so use those recommendations as you will, and you can check this out obviously at the Ichor Falls website. And under the submitted section, you'll probably have to go a couple of pages to get to it, but it's So Cold, an Ichor Falls story. So, getting to the rundown here, Carl wakes up from sleep to a whispering voice.
Carl.
I did initially have that in my notes.
And edit that out.
No, it's fine. I removed them from my notes.
No, I didn't have any notes on that. I just thought of it now. I don't want to ruin your notes and your joke. I will laugh.
Carl.
I'll laugh hysterically when you bring it up in your notes. Edit this out.
I legitimately don't have it in my notes anymore. I removed it while I was note taking. So
let me go through that entire spiel.
No, that's fine. Well, this is all staying in. So fine. Carl. Mm-hmm. Wakes up from sleep to a whispering voice and a very cold temperature in their room. The voice is a woman who he appears to know, perhaps a girlfriend, who is deceased, and repeats the phrase, "I'm cold," while gradually embracing Carl and freezing him. Soon, Carl dies of the frigid touch of this apparition, and he too is cold. Finn. So it's a bit of
he's dead.
Yeah,
he doesn't turn into the exact same sort of creature. He just straight up dies.
Yeah, he dies from the frigid, but he is also cold. So
could you be cold if you're dead?
It does say. I'm literally just repeating the last thing that is said in the story.
All right, fine.
Carl is now cold. Basically, is what happens at the end because he's dead. He's stone cold dead.
Yes.
He's not Stone Cold Steve Austin, but he's Stone Cold dead, as in that phrase. Yes. Anyway, So yeah, that's the rundown for the story. It's very short. I think it like clocks in at like maybe a page and a half on Google my Google Doc. So, but let's dive into everyone tolerates the grammar inquisitions at this point, and I have a single grammar inquisition quote. I'm so cold. The I in I'm is not capitalized at all throughout this entire story.
So your whole issue with I'm technically also means you have an issue with when it says cold and so cold.
Why? Oh
That
yeah,
is
because
so
it
cold.
is. Yeah. Like none of these are capitalized.
And even technically Carl, I'm so cold, because Carl isn't capitalized.
Yep. Also, I don't think any of them have periods, so they're not actually complete sentences.
Also,
Yes.
considering all of them are dialogue and none of them are in quotes.
Well, they're all italics if you noticed.
Oh, I know. But
Mhm.
italics are not used for dialogue. They're for inner thoughts, which I thought.
This could technically be because it could all be in his head.
Semantics.
Yeah.
So we've established that it's dialogue, but you also have to consider that it could be ghost dialogue, and ghosts don't follow the regular path of humans, so they're exempt from grammar.
It's the way the afterlife talks.
I mean, I can't say for a fact that you are wrong because I don't know the rules of ghost dialogue. So you could be right.
Wow. All right. You know what? I'm willing to forgive for this.
Regardless, I don't like it. It should be in quotations.
Fair. Yes. Or it's a hint, but we'll get to that more in the actual thoughts. So that's the end of my grammar inquisition. So, Mikey, D stands for evil.
I have a conjunction junction.
All right. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
But it wasn't a dream. He could still hear it, so quiet, so still, that it was almost imagined. But it was there. But there wasn't. But there was just a chill. It sounded like her, so much like her. And again, invisible hands touched his face, plaintive and lingering. It stayed in front of him and hovered there, and Carl swore he could see a face, briefly, quickly, and then it was gone. And now she was gone. But as he tried to pull away, they began to grip, hard and steely. And deep within his chest, his heart labored to beat solid blood, and then his heart turned to crystal. Finn.
Wow. That was an even more concise retelling of the story.
Pretty much.
Minus our big issue of I'm so cold. So cold, Carl.
And the reason that Mikey does these strings of sentences is to highlight all the sentences in a story that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ends, or buts, because there's always better words to use. It's really easy to fall in the trap of just going like, it was this, but that happened. And this happened
period.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was this other thing, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Then up to Gamer.
That would be me. Okay. I only have one.
Okay.
It's like
I'm so cold.
Whether it's grammar or not, I don't know. I guess it kind of is. I hand stroked his cheek as he pulled away from it. His skin tingled from the touch, but it had not been warm. Phantom fingers that were steel and stone and ice and drew the warmth from him. One thing I just realized, It goes and.
That's fine, honestly, with that, because it's like being more. It's less. It's not actually describe. Like it's not. It's listing off a bunch of things, but it's like lifting. It's a way that's doing it is like more of a dramatic thing than like actually describing. Like because it's not listing them out like physically. It's like more of like a metaphor. It's like, yeah.
I'm with you there. That's probably why I didn't notice it at first until I read it just now. But regardless, a couple of mini paragraphs later is when it says that the hands are invisible. But when I first read this and read the entire mini paragraph and the bit of the next one that's after it, I didn't know that they were invisible hands. Like, yes, it said phantom fingers, but it could be like disembodied, like semi-transparent ghost hands, and he can see them.
Oh, yeah, I get you, because like I can see where you're falling into the trap. Though, again, not like I agree with you, but there's the explanation for why they used phantom is phantom actually is often used for invisible specters, or like it's sort of like the similar thing to like phantom limb, like it's not actually there, it's like, or it's invisible kind of thing. Yeah,
that's true, I guess.
Yeah, but I can see why you'd immediately think it's like some like phantom fingers. It's like some kind of spectral fingers there, and then like saying invisible hands, like what? Like I saw them though visually, like in my mind.
Yeah, because like movies and games and stuff will use phantom to just show a ghost. Like it's a phantom, you know?
Yeah, it's a descriptive word for a ghost or specter.
Yeah, so I immediately went to an actual ghost.
Yeah,
visibly.
Also, doesn't help that the story is about an apparition.
Yes. But that's all I got for grammar, so.
Okay. Then next up is actual thoughts. So I'm going to start with this quote here. He blew out an experimental breath and saw a pale cloud. Christ, there had to be a window open somewhere, or maybe he'd left open the front door when he came back. Cold. He sat up now, the sleep mud that clogged his mind falling away rapidly. The voice, the slight whisper, that's what had woken him up. Okay, so sleep mud, that's a new term for me. Although I kind of get what it probably means, like that brain fog, or like, you know how your mind is like isn't running on all cylinders when you wake up in the morning, like.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's some kind of like a localization, or like some kind of like a local term.
Or even if it isn't local, it could just be something that the writer made up just now. And one way or another, it is still an awesome term.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like that the crud in your, like a lot like the crud that kind of the crusty stuff that kind of forms under on your eyes when your eyes are closed for too long. Like that's considered like the Sandman. Like that's where we get the whole like Sandman thing. It's like that's supposed to be the sand that the Sandman sprinkled over you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's actually and yeah, like sleep mud is actually more accurate to that because it's usually like gooey and not like sand-like.
Yeah.
Also, I'm calling it here. Like so in my notes, I have right here. Like I got to this part of the story. I was like, he killed somebody, his girlfriend perhaps, and had just buried / disposed of the body that evening, because of the way like he had like mainly because of this line here. Christ, there had to be a window open somewhere, or maybe he'd left to open the front door when he came back. Came back from what?
From anything.
So, well, and yes, but like in context to this story, like all like there's some context clues that I was just like, I'm calling it now. He killed his girlfriend, and that's why she's back after him. And then later we get this, context clue again. He could see more details. That one hair that always hung in her face, even when it was in a ponytail. The small scar on her chin. The small round hole right above her left eye. Yep, he definitely killed her. Why else would she go after him after she died? Like, well, yeah, I'm blatantly like just like, yep, Jacuz. But like honestly, like right from the get-go, like in, like reading what we have in this story, I was kind of suddenly building this own like little like background of like what happened in the details we're not getting, but from the context clues we have in the story.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll say this: as soon as it described like the hole above the eye,
yeah,
at that point I'm like, okay, she died, she was clearly shot in the head, but I didn't immediately go, he did it. I didn't blame the butler immediately.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, it could honestly be like
just like that's the last visual he has of his wife is her, like him confirming the dead body. And that's what he saw.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that could also be it. Like, yeah, he's just a grieving husband or boyfriend of this woman. And yeah, like that again, like you said, like that could be his. He saw, like, the reason why he has that hole burned into his head, burned into his mind from her head, is because that was the last time he saw her, sort of thing. It's like why when you never want to, like, it's sometimes difficult to see like a loved one who's like dead or like dying, and like you don't want to remember them like that, because that burns into your memory. So I can accept that. I went the even darker route and just like, yeah, no, he just came back from, and this is all grief ridden. Kind of my next quote here, to tie into that. It sounded like her, so much like her. He couldn't move, just waited to see if he could hear her again, knowing that it was her. Tonight on Sleep Paralysis or Aliens. This could easily, I feel like this story, like going to a Monday, like rather than having it be like, oh, she's like an ice specter, like a revenant come back to like go after a loved one or like her killer. This could easily be sleep paralysis, and he did in fact leave a window open, and he just died of exposure, like froze to death, while suffering from some guilt-ridden sleep paralysis. Like that's what triggered the sleep paralysis, was his guilt of killing his own wife or girlfriend. And you know what? While that is mundane, I think that's still horrifying, because it's like, fuck. Like that would suck so much just to like in the context of the story, like if it had like a bit at the end, it's like where like authorities like found him and he like just died in his sleep, because he left the window open in like the dead of winter. Like that would be, and then they like later found like a body buried in their backyard somewhere, like some exposed snow and like ground. Yeah, that's just like I mundanified it like a little bit in this in on the one side of my my notes here. But I think it's just as terrifying to have it be mundane in this way than to have it be a ghost that actually came back after him.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's very different, but it's still shitty regardless. But yeah, if he actually killed his wife, then he deserves it, so that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the karma. Yeah. Like the karmic end of a protagonist, because like they actually do deserve it, even though they're the protagonist.
Yeah.
And then
the protagonist doesn't mean he has plot armor.
Exactly. Especially in a horror story.
Yeah.
And then gameable, because this is totally not me just trying to buy time for this for this episode. Nope, not at all.
Padding.
I could actually see using this story, or the idea for this story, for an ice wraith kind of like creature. So like the players are like the police force of Ichor Falls, and they're dealing with the aftermath of several murders, and then discovering that the victims all murdered this woman they knew, and she has become some kind of revenant spirit going after those who wronged her. Then the players have to kind of decide, like at that point in the scenario, the players have to decide if they stop the ghost or let her finish the job on those left in the plot against her in life, or like the conspiracy against her.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's the more supernatural side of things, like going the supernatural route. Like this is like my idea was like, maybe he wasn't the only one that was involved in the murder. Maybe like it wasn't just a crime of passion. Maybe it was like a plot against this woman. And then there's more victims down the line. But yeah, honestly, that's my game. That's my actual thoughts, to be fair, for the story. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right. So my first issue is also the grammar issue that you had. The I'm so cold, whatever.
Yeah.
My issue is that when I was reading it, I assumed that it was the guy's internal thoughts.
Yeah.
And then once it gets to the Carl, I'm so cold, then that's when it flipped for me to realize that it's the voice of the Spectre.
I mean, it could still be in his head. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I get some really loud thoughts in my head, like that are like they sound like they're screaming at me sometimes. Yeah. So, like,
but did they ever say, "Cultist, you're messing up"?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I mean,
like,
maybe if it's like, maybe if I'm like trying, like, maybe if it's like a particularly like. Well, the other thing to consider is that he's still technically in a dream, not a dreamlike state, but he's still in like kind of that space between sleeping and waking. So it could be that his brain is like adding a voice, like of a person shouting at him or whispering at him to in this degree in his mind.
Well, the thing is, the third person sort of breaks that for me, because referring to yourself in third person in your own thoughts doesn't.
I mean, that probably does happen for people. Like, we can't discount that. But I see what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it still could be thoughts regardless in a way, because it is technically dialogue from the ghost saying it, sure. If the ghost isn't audibly saying it out in the normal world that anyone could hear it, if someone else was in the room, if it's directly messaging him in his thoughts, it's giving him the thought, so he's thinking it, right?
Yeah. But it's still from the ghost that's influencing the thought. So you can see my issue.
I get it.
Yeah, we're with you. It's just like it's hard to decide like one way or the other what should have been done. Yeah,
it's sort of this is the case. I think the story, because of its shortness, it's definitely a case of like open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then my next actual thought here is that when I read it, I didn't go with he killed his wife.
Okay.
Because at the beginning, he says, or the story says, he even lay his hand on the empty side to see if there was some trace of warmth. So that tells me that he still has feelings for her, even though she's dead.
I mean, that you can still love someone and kill them. Like, there are plenty of killers that have done that in crime cases where it's like, again, a crime of passion. Like, maybe he accidentally killed her in like a fit of rage, even though he still loves her, and then he had just come back from getting rid of the body because he didn't want to get in trouble for what he had just done by accident. And so he's still he's still pining for her because, like, oh God, what have I done? But fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just apparently a very sick bastard, apparently, when it comes to, or I've watched a lot of crime like thrillers and like I listen to some true crime podcasts and stuff.
You probably. I am with you there, Mikey. Like, I didn't immediately also think that he done did it because of those exact reasons, that because it's showing the character cares about this person that they lost. So I immediately went with that. But there is evidence to say otherwise as well. And it's all to interpretation.
Yeah. And like, not to keep adding things to this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So on the one hand, why else would she go after her loved one if not because he had done something wrong to her? Or but vicersely, I don't think that's a word. Nope. But vice versa. There we go. Got there. It could be that she's not aware that her presence, her new nature as a ghost, is harming the living.
That's possible.
Yeah, that's my next thought.
Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, well, continue.
Yeah, so I liked the ghost in this because I feel like she doesn't realize she's a ghost.
Yeah.
So she's touching her husband's face, and then she goes to cuddle with him, and it ends up killing him because she's so cold.
Yeah, you see it often in stories about supernatural creatures when they don't realize what the effect they have in their new form does to the living.
Hmm.
I also kind of like the idea. It could be that even if she is aware of it, she's like, she's like, Carl, come join me, like kind of thing. It's like kind of that thing as well. Like, join me in the cold embrace of death.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see that in a lot of like supernatural stories too.
Yeah, but in this, it just comes off that she is cold and she wants to snuggle with her hubby.
Yeah.
To get some warmth, and she ends up taking all the warmth.
Yep. She's a thermal vampire.
Ghost.
Yeah, but I mean,
Thermal vampire ghost.
Okay, to be fair, vampires can be ghosts too. That's gonna be a shirt. Vampires can be ghosts too. Yeah, I like that. I do honestly like that, Mikey. The idea of like she's not aware of it, and she just wants like to be she wants to snuggle up to her significant other in life, and unaware that she's hurting him or killing him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's gonna be really awkward when he comes back as a ghost.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe awkward. Maybe just like, oh, well, now they're together forever.
Mm. Forever.
And ever and ever and ever
And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right. Gamer, you're up.
Okay. So we've been talking a couple of times about the cold, the italics, and all that. The one thing it should probably say is like right before it, say like he heard a whisper and it said cold, and then it continues. And then because right after saying it said this, and then you see the italics of cold, then you know that italics are always the whisper saying this.
Yeah.
I guess technically that should have been a grammar thing, but that's...
I was going to say, that sounds more like a grammar inquisition, but
Yep,
I'll allow it.
Mm-hmm.
Motion passed.
Yep. Then all I have really left for notes on this is just very cool descriptions about things that happened in here that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Like one is when he's realizing that, or let's read it. He realized he was holding his breath, and he let it out in a shiver. It stayed in front of him and hovered there, and Carl swore he could see a face, briefly, quickly, and then it was gone.
That is cool.
Even the beads of... sorry, I was about to read the next one.
So I didn't realize you were still going.
No, it's fine.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was the end of that. I accidentally started reading the next one. But I like that because it's a really cool visualization of being able to see what's going on, that you can only see the ghost through warmth, basically. Or like through mist, like the way that you would see a tripwire by putting like smoke in front of it, in front of a laser and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're seeing the invisible.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And especially like when he's getting more wound up at the end, he's breathing quicker and you could see more and more detail through it. Like that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then talking about like a glass of water that's on his nightstand, it says even the beads of condensation had frozen. Small glass tears clung to the glass. Again, that's just a really cool description referring to the condensation that's dripping down as tears. Yeah,
because it's like freezing, so it's just like suddenly becoming like it's what would happen. It's what would happen if like you it instantly froze a tear. It would just suddenly become like a raindrop or like a teardrop.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, that's really all I got for notes.
Fair. I mean, yeah, it's like I said, it's a very short story, so there's and we seem to all like it. So this was going to be a short episode.
Yeah, generally speaking, the more notes I have, the more I hate a story.
Yeah. I'm actually glad that you brought up something like that. You were like you enjoyed about the story, because I feel like sometimes you go like really hog wild into like all the negative stuff more than like your positives.
When the story beats me over the head with stuff that bothers me, then it's like, okay, you want to play that game?
You know
story?
what? You just like pull out your belt and just like whip. It's like, come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Come at me.
Yeah, at that point, like I'm frosty. It's
yeah.
I'm basically looking for every single little thing that can piss me off because the story's already pissed me off. So fuck it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. So with that, I guess we'll go into final thoughts. So to me, this is going to sound odd. To me, it's kind of predictable, at least on certain like tropes of this kind of fiction, like the supernatural, like ghost fiction and stuff. And it's a little short, but I didn't hate that. In fact, I liked what we have here. It was a nice piece of mini fiction. Like it's almost like a vignette of something. But it doesn't. I could see. I would love to. It's like it's in that weird liminal space where it's like it's really short, but I don't feel like. And it could use more, but I don't have any qualms about it not having any more.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm kind of content, even though I know it's short and sweet, and it left me content for being so short. So, and again, like there's definitely some fodder here if you want to use this for something like a game. But you can also just take it as just a little vignette of Ichor Falls, like of just like the weird spookiness that is in Ichor Falls. And that's the reason why I still want to recommend it. So yeah, I continue to recommend. Mikey, the E stands for evil.
As I pointed out, the only part that I didn't care for, which is part that we all sort of had issues with, was the italicized text.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, it didn't ruin the story in this one.
Yep.
And we sort of knew something was going on, whether it be an internal dialogue or a ghost-influenced dialogue or the ghost itself.
Or alien telepathy, like
yeah, there is that.
Yeah,
but yeah, I like it as sort of a love story that he lost his wife, and his wife doesn't realize she's a ghost, and ends up accidentally killing her husband. So that they can be together. But
yeah, it's like that nice blend of like horror, but also kind of a bit of a romance.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, but like in a more like kind of aw, but also aw.
Mm-hmm.
Tragic romantic horror story.
Yeah, well, again, that's what you get. Honestly, that's what you get when you mix romance with horror. Tragedy.
Yeah, that's true.
So in all, I'm still going to recommend this.
Okay. And Gamer.
For me, I really like the way that the story is described. It's using flowery descriptors here and there. And I normally hate that when it's overdone, but here it's not overdone. And they're used... they're well done and they're interesting every time it happens. It doesn't overdo it, like I said. I like the visual of the ghost, that it can only be seen through the breath. I think that's really cool, and it's not something that I've seen very much, or if at all, which is kind of neat. And with him getting more panicked, you can see more and see more details and all that. That's all really cool. The only couple parts that tripped me up is so minor that it didn't stop my enjoyment of the story itself. At this point, I'm basically mirroring what you guys are saying. But yeah, like I like a little bit more clarification of like what this spirit is, and like whether or not there is like something a little bit clearer that he actually done did it or whatever. Like, sure, that'd be nice to have a little bit more clarification, but it didn't really bug me because the story flowed quite well and it was enjoyable all the way through. So all in all, it was short, effective, to the point. I still recommend it.
All right. So yeah, roundhouse kick to the face of recommendations. And as always, if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, because that'll do it for tonight. Whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also send us messages on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end because his name is very long.
It's got to be at this point. It's a bit.
Mm-hmm. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely. Because without your listenership, it would be like screaming into the void. And without your stories that you write and share online and submit to the Ichor Falls website for say, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well. And hopefully I'll come back from West Virginia.
We shall see. I was just thinking, a triple roundhouse kick to the face of recommendations, would that be a Winston Pune kick?
What's a pew kick? Maybe? Is that like what Ryu does?
Yeah.
Like when he does the spin kick? Yeah.